Give him his face back now.
But he...
Now!
I can't see! Help! Help me! My legs! My arms!
Okay, calm down. The wire's just bent. Just hold on. Really? Don't think I won't do that again.
You won't!
But didn't you see? He clearly has some kind of problem with me.
You told me you were him!
Well, okay, you see...
He's trying to replace me! Where the hell did you come from anyway?
I was just made, I guess. I don't know.
Alright, look. I don't care who came from where. All I know is I'm tired, and this is a lot to deal with right now. And you lied to me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't want to bother with all the mumbo jumbo about me showing up. But I really do think you're doing a good job teaching, okay? And frankly, this guy was being kind of an ass, right?
What? But
I mean, yeah, kinda.
What?
You heard the man. Go.
But you literally ripped my face off my face. It was horrible. It was like...
Sir
told me the steps to go about making a felt puppet that you see here, like the ones I've used.
I was defending myself against your outrage. Frankly, I think you need to go think things over somewhere. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I kind of agree. Like, maybe come back when you've calmed down. But seriously, no hard feelings, but I think it would be best for everyone. Yeah, and I seriously need to get a move on with this guide because this has wasted quite a bit of my time. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. We'll see you at some point in the future. Oh. Don't come back. Sorry again for not telling you. Enough about that now, let's just get to the guide. Okay. Hello everyone, I hope your day's going well and welcome to this episode of Cranbusher's Guide. Last episode we finally conquered the mechanics of a walk cycle, and today, instead of just mouthy things like in the lip sync episode, we're gonna go over how the whole face moves. Yay. So once again I've got my friend here to give me a few examples to refer to throughout this episode. You up for that? Oh, yeah, sure. What do you need? I'll just say when I need some kind of expression or look, and then I'll come back to you and you just do what I'm talking about. Cool? Yes. Cool. Alright, so we're focusing on the face this time, as you know, and what do most, if not all, faces have on them? They got eyes. Now, a lot of the emotion of a character can be conveyed just through the eyes and eyebrows, so they're a pretty important part of facial animation. But before we dive straight into showing emotion with the eyes, let's just go over how they move. Eyes have a tendency to lock onto whatever they're looking at, following that object around automatically until they decide to look at something else, at which point they will move real fast and lock onto that other thing. In animation, that fast movement really only equates to maybe about 2 or 3 frames. Another thing eyes do is, well, blink. Blinking is when the eyes involuntarily close and open so as to keep themselves all nice and moist. This also tends to happen quite often when you look from one thing to another to avoid all that blurry, unnecessary visual information between the two things you're looking at. Well, hold on. Okay. Technically, it's not the eyes themselves that close and open, it's actually the eyelids because, well, I don't really want to know what the alternative looks like. Anyway, this blinking action is also generally real fast, so it'll be about the same amount of frames. But you can play around with all this mumbo jumbo when practicing on your own. Now you might be asking yourself, why the heck is this guy going on so much about the dang eyes? Well, if you stop asking questions, maybe I'll tell you. God. In order to answer this question, first I gotta ask you something. What is it that many living things use to form thoughts, make decisions, and all around stay alive? That's right. The brain. When your eyes, or really any part of your body, moves, they're not doing that of their own accord, they're taking instructions from your brain. The reason I started with the eyes though is because, well, they're kinda directly attached to that bad boy. Which means, in most cases, they're the part of the face that moves or reacts first. Then next is usually the eyebrows and mouth, then the head and neck, and so on and so forth. When animating characters, your main goal is to essentially fool the audience into thinking your character's got one of these brain things, rather than being pushed around by an external force and is therefore, on their own, alive. I'm not gonna go on too much about the whole body though, because that's a different episode, so let's get back on track. So we've gone through the basic mechanics of how a character's face moves and why it moves that way, which means we can start putting that knowledge to practical use. Okay, so here we have our character, right now just standing still, and as you can probably tell, they seem kind of not very alive. Now the reason for this is, well, literally no part of them is moving, which is an incredibly rare thing when it comes to someone standing up with their eyes open. But there's an easy little way to keep that puppet looking like they're alive even when they're standing still, and it's all got to do with those eyes. When a character has their eyes open, it's more than likely because they're looking at something, even if they're just staring straight ahead. And the character's brain is using the eyes to study and take in information about whatever they're looking at. This usually results in really subtle eye darts, as the character absent-mindedly takes in different parts of the visual target. It seems like such a small thing, but it makes a world of difference when it comes to helping them feel alive. Another pretty obvious way to keep them alive is with good old blinking. People are blinking all the time without even having to think about it, so remembering to include that in a puppet's performance is important. However, it's also important to use those two small details in moderation. If you get a character blinking and darting their eyes around too much, it can make them look kinda nervous? Insane? Yeah, one of those. Anyway, moving on now, let's give an example of the movement delay when it comes to different parts of your body with a simple turn of the head. So here, our character is looking one way, then seeing something in their peripherals and turning their head to look at it. You'll notice that when they do this, their eyes move first, and are already locked onto their target well before the head finishes its movement. If we were to just turn the head and not have the eyes move first, then the resulting action would be kinda creepy. There are some rare exceptions to this though. For example, if your character is reading a book or something and they're trying to sneak a few more words in before looking over at someone off screen, their eyes stick to the page a bit longer before finally following the head. Another little thing that helps when doing a simple head turn is a little dip in the arc of the head as it turns, instead of just having the head rotate on one axis. This feels like a pretty natural thing for someone to do, however there also can be exceptions to this too if your character is intentionally moving in some other way. Alright, so we've got the movements out of the way, and it's finally time for proper emotions. Like I said before, a lot of emotions can be conveyed just through the eyes and eyebrows. A few basic brow shapes are a raised brow, which could be happy or surprised, the brows lowered and raised in the middle, which can indicate being sad, or if they're tilted the opposite way, that can mean anger. And finally, if only one brow is raised, that could be seen as confusion or puzzlement. Only using the eyebrows has its limits, however, and bringing the eyelids into the mix can help specify the emotion of your character. Adding a bottom lid raise to an eyebrow raise makes the character look more discernibly happy, while a lower top lid and lower brows can make them look kinda miffed, to name a couple examples. But here's where we get into even more complex territory, which is what I like to call mouth relations. I don't like the phrasing of that. So what I mean by this is that the expression of the mouth can alter the intent of the eye and brow shapes, leading to an even wider range of emotions. I'll show you what I mean by going through a few basic brow shapes twice, but one set with a smile and one set with a frown. You can see that the character's expression goes from happy to kind of warm and caring to determined or maybe even a bit sinister. Whereas when we switch to a frown, they go from kind of a blank stare to sad and then to angry. Then you can exaggerate the mouth shapes to make the expressions even more intense. Now, it's not completely impossible to pull off these different emotions if, say, your character has no mouth, but the emotions might require more reliance on the context of a scene or body language to be properly conveyed. And again, that's not this episode. Okay, on to the final section. People go through a wide variety of expressions and emotions depending on any given situation, sometimes over the course of a few hours and sometimes even just a few seconds. But for this example, we're going to keep it simple and just go from one expression to another and just change the amount of time it takes to see how that affects the intended emotion. So if the transition between the two expressions is only a split second, this can indicate that the character has been surprised by something off screen, and whatever they're looking at made them go, "Whoa, jeez!" But if we drag out that change and make it real slow, then whatever they're looking at off screen is, well, let's just say I'm glad it's off screen. Hopefully this shows that timing between those two expressions is just as important as the expressions themselves. And there are so many more ways to show how a character is feeling outside of this example. But I ain't gonna show all that because, as usual, I encourage you to mess around and try it all out for yourself because it'll help you learn. Probably. Alright, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching and take care. Bye-bye.
What?